coming to get you, Barbara.
The notes I've got here: 1, safe and effective propaganda, the chilling depopulation agendas hidden behind the veneer of COVID bioweaponry, marketed as safe and effective. The fear of disease was used as a tool to control populations for safe and effective propaganda. 2, overpopulation exhausts resources. Building from the discussion on depopulation, we segue into the myth of overpopulation, debunking the notion that our planet's resources are stretched thin due to excessive population growth. He said, one wonders if the biggest contemporaneous psyop isn't just that, about leading the entirety of humanity through a grotesque propaganda campaign, through obviously mainstream media, academia, and kind of social normalization of this idea that we are too many, and that we are the parasite, that we are the problem, when it's the polar opposite. So what are your thoughts, Dan, on that? That piece is the essential propaganda piece. The humans should feel themselves to be degraded, undignified, venal creatures that have no place in God's creation, and we should self-orchestrate our own auto-destruct and fall upon our sword and reduce our own population from a purported 8 billion to 500 million or whatever it is that is intended. But isn't that really the big psyop, degrading our entire existence from being innately affirmative, expansive, and creative, and abundant and prosperous, into being the other?
Well, say our last exciting episode, we were going to just skip that, and I was going to go into Psyop 11 because of time constraints. But I'll comment on that, and that, you know, our planet's been technologically hijacked. We have the ability to make the deserts flourish, enough food for everybody. There's technology to be able to, you know, have habitats in all over the planet, and off planet as well. So, you know, the whole overpopulation situation is artificially created because of the lack of technology that has been suppressed. But if you like, I can go into Psyop number 11.
Well, I want to do that, but first what I want to do is just skirt through number 3, water scarcity. Continue the theme of resource scarcity, the narrative of water shortage being a principal one. Here we talk about, this is the concept of primary water, untapped resource of limitless water hidden beneath the earth's crust, challenging the widespread belief in inevitable water scarcity. So classic scarcity economics issues out of this. Number 4, agriculture requires fertilizer and pesticides. So this egregious notion that we need to artificially pump up nature to do nature's own bidding, shifting focus to agriculture, we expose the corporate-driven narratives that farming is impossible without fertilizers and pesticides, which of course is systemic and endemic poisoning. Number 5, climate change is a human problem. So that's, you know, number 5, big psyop, transitioning the controversial topic of so-called climate change, challenging the dominant narrative about the extent of human, forgive me, I've lost my notes here, a human impact on climate patterns, and exposing the distorted science often used to promote specific agendas. Number 6, wildfires caused by climate change. Don't need to delve into that. We all know the absurdity of that. 7, anti-gravity craft false flag, taking a leap from earthly concerns to cosmic deceit. We discuss the potential implications of false flag alien invasion on that subject if we go into it. We explore the history and technology of anti-grav crafts, questioning the narrative spun around ET life and advanced technology. Moving on to flat earth theory. Number 8, then delving into this, exploring how this belief was strategically created by DARPA and the CIA, demonstrating the lengths to which psyops can go to shape public perception and discourse of reality itself. 9, terrorist attacks, 9/11. We bring the controversial back to a historical event that shook the world, 9/11 terrorist attack. You could go back to Pearl Harbor. You could go back to the Reichstag. We can go back in history to thousands of these. The Great Fire of London, 1666, a classic example. We examine the evidence against the official narrative and discuss the possible motives and actors behind these tragic events. That's a very deep dive when we go into the business of state-sponsored terrorism. And number 10, the cancer treatment deception. This is a real biggie. Concluding, this Psyop exposes the monopolization of cancer treatment. The discussion around this Psyop, forgive me, will expose the monopolization of cancer treatment. And alternative cures exist but remain suppressed. And of course, highlighting the deception and control in our healthcare system, the full weaponization of human health, which is connected to government and statutory this, that, and the other, the way that executive branches of government and the juridical and judicial branches of government are in collusion and cahoots, largely unconsciously historically, but today, without any doubt, entirely consciously engaged in a conspiracy to defraud humanity of all that is real. So take us now, Dan, to Psyop number 11.
Okay, I'm going to do this. I know we're on a time constraint here, so I'm going to go very fast. And each one of these slides, obviously, I can go into greater depth, but we're just going to rapidly fire through this.
We've got a bit longer than anticipated. Just so you know, we've been having difficulties getting one of our Hopi elders on the line. We might need to defer that down the line to the next symposium. Very difficult right now to get him onto the line. So we're having technical issues there. So Dan, we've got a bit longer than we planned for, so we can breathe through the rest of the segment.
Oh, fantastic. All right. This is going to be Psyop topic number 11. We have made little or no progress in reverse engineering extraterrestrial anti-gravity technology. Okay, what indications show anti-gravity craft already exists? You go back to 1915, Tesla was talking about flying craft that he had created. Go back to 1919, you have Maria Orsic, telepathic messages that was giving technology instructions, which she gave to Dr. Schumann, who found viable physics for development. By 1934, they have developed anti-gravity craft, the Nazi SS, 20 years ahead of the United States. Professor Hermann Ober stated, we had help from the people of other worlds. And a U.S. Navy spy revealed the Nazi had a space program to Secretary James Forrestal, who started a Navy spy program in Germany, which William Tompkins testified. At the fall of the Soviet Union, secret Nazi SS documents showed they had developed a number of different craft designs, including large cigar-shaped craft and the different from the Hanabu 1 to Hanabu 2. By 1942, they established a moon base with their craft that could no longer needed rockets. They had a plan to infiltrate into the United States and create this matrix of perception to hide their secret space program from the American people. Over 250,000 Germans, over 100 U-boats, and the Nazis' top Reich scientists all escaped down to Antarctica. And they took with them their advanced anti-gravity craft from Germany. Of course, to hide this, the Rockefeller Foundation, working in alliance with them, rewrote the history of World War II to hide this escape and infiltration. Forrestal sent Admiral Byrd to attack the Nazi base in Antarctica. They were completely defeated because they had directed energy weapons on these advanced craft and completely wiped out all their aircraft. And that was Operation High Jump. Now, Project Dove was a CIA U.S. Air Force psychological operation that they started in 1951 to the day they stood, and every single extraterrestrial-related movie has been worked with the script that forms these psychological operations to form our perceptions of extraterrestrials. The Invention Secrecy Act 1952, suppresses anyone who has a anti-gravity invention that will automatically receive a national security order, which states that your invention has been deemed to be a detriment to national security. You cannot share it with anyone. So anybody comes up with anti-gravity invention, and there have been many people, and free energy as well, get suppressed. The Nazis fly over the Capitol building in 1952 to intimidate the Truman-Eisenhower administration. MJ-12 operations started a psychological operation using George Adamski to keep the public Nazi craft and say they are the Space Brothers from Venus when they're actually German. And the Nazis were landing in Hawaii and also in Nebraska. They had swastikas and iron crosses and Nazi uniforms and talking in High German language. So a number of people saw them. This is something that was very undesirable because they wanted to keep this quiet. In 2013, Dr. Stephen Greer testified that an NSA agent went inside the vault and was shown that we had achieved by October of 1954 anti-gravity. So we've not needed rockets, jets, internal combustion engines, surface roadways since that year. Fellow witness, National Press Club, Mark McCandish, testified we have anti-gravity vehicles called alien reproduction vehicles built back in the 1950s that could go faster than the speed of light. In 1956, Young Men magazine had an article on the gravity engines, they called G engines. After this publication came out, nothing more was heard. And then 1958, NASA is created, run by a former Nazi SS officer, keeping us believing we need rockets to overcome gravity. 1959, Nikola Tesla knew how to create an anti-gravity craft and trained in 1937 Otis Carr. So by 1959, Otis had created and patented his OTC X-1 spacecraft. 2 weeks after a successful flight, the FBI and other government agencies in a secret raid completely shut down their operation and confiscated everything and told him that because you're a threat to overthrow the monetary system of the United States of America is why they did that. Ben Rich, in a speech to UCLA's engineering students, quote, "We have already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects. It would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do." 2001 National Press Club, I was one of the top secret military witnesses here in the only gray outfit. This event inspired a hacker in the UK, Gary McKinnon, who revealed in the computer systems the US Navy's Solar Warden secret space program, where they have these 8 large cigar-shaped craft that we developed, going back to the 1940s. 2002, Admiral Wilson, who was denied access and threatened, and which brought about the 2001 event, he had a meeting with Dr. Eric Davis, and the memo was leaked, and they talked about the technology that they were reverse engineering that was not of this earth, not made by man, not by human hands. 2006, a patent was granted for an anti-gravitic triangular spacecraft like the TR-3B. 2018, U.S. Navy granted a patent that this design used anti-gravity, and it acknowledged that it's operable. 2021, both of these testimonies would have confirmed we have anti-gravity technology. In 2019, former Air Force intelligence specialist Mike Tuber claimed the 2004 Nimitz anti-gravity Tic Tac. In other words, it was on the New York Times back in 2017. Everybody's seen the Tic Tac, in the Air Force, the Navy video. But then in April 6th of 2021, Mike Tuber comes out publicly and says, I made the whole thing up. There's nothing to this. I was a psychological test. 1 week later, on April 13th, disclosure witness Mark McCandish, whose testimony reveals we have anti-gravity craft built back in the 50s, had planned on testifying at the June 2021 UFO UAP hearing, was found dead with a gunshot to his head. Did someone pay both of these men a visit? Okay, who has claimed we don't have advanced anti-gravitic technology fully developed from reverse engineering extraterrestrial spacecraft? Now, in 1993, I traveled outside Area 51 and met with Bob Lazar and recorded him for 2 hours asking questions. And he expressed that due to the highly compartmentalized structure, they were unable to bring in more of the scientific community minds to reverse engineer the effort of the Zeta 2 Reticuli spacecraft Lazar was working on in order to make significant progress. Now, you have to keep in mind that these operations are highly compartmentalized. So what one person is aware of, another person in another operation has no idea. It's just the way compartmentalized operations work. Now, in the leaked Admiral Wilson memo, the Admiral was told that reverse engineering of extraterrestrial craft was, quote, going on for years and years with very slow progress, agonizingly slow, with little or no success. And then Dr. Eric Davis, he's briefing members of Congress, comes out in the New York Times. Whenever anything comes out from the New York Times, you know, we're on their head propaganda outlets. Basically spoke that the lack of success in reverse engineering is due to difficulties understanding the new physics of operating the recovered craft. It was his belief that the reverse engineering program suffered from a lack of funding. Now, the Senate UFO UAP hearing that Mark was going to testify at, these intelligence officials, you know, Office Naval Intelligence, the other one, they denied that the U.S. has such technology. And interestingly, Congressman Mike Gallagher brought up the Admiral Wilson memo, which is a hot potato, and the Malmstrom Air Force Base incident, where they shut down all the nuclear-tipped ICBMs. And these intelligence specialists that are supposed to be in charge of this, they're not aware of what the average, you know, teenage UFO buff knows about this kind of thing. So it's, you know, highly suspicious that these people are the gatekeepers. Who has spoken of an alien attack from outer space? You know, going back to 1955, General Douglas MacArthur had a huge amount of information. Truman put a top secret gag order on him. And he went to the New York Times and said, quote, the nations of the world will have to unite, for the next world war will be an interplanetary war. The nations of Earth must someday make a common front against attack from people from other planets. In 1987, President Ronald Reagan, his famous United Nations speech, quote, perhaps we need some outside universal threat to recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. Now, in 2014, President Bill Clinton kind of echoes this on the Jimmy Kimmel regarding the benefits of an alien invasion, where he says, quote, if we were visited someday, I wouldn't be surprised, Clinton said. I just hope it's not like Independence Day. It may be the only way to unite this increasingly divided world of ours. Think of all the differences among people of Earth, which seem small if we feel threatened by a space invader. That's the whole theory of Independence Day. Everybody gets together and makes nice. So here we are today, 2014. What could this lie possibly serve besides not letting our adversaries know we have this type technology? And you have to think our adversaries, you know, you think China, Russia, so forth, they already have. They already have their own secret space programs. There has been several indications that a plan has been in place to create a false flag alien invasion. What evidence is there for a plan for a false flag alien invasion? 1967, the report from Iron Mountain. This leaked document concludes that war, or a credible substitute for war, is necessary if governments are to maintain power. In other words, the need for continual create ongoing enemies through false flag events to perpetuate war on this planet. Now, when President Lyndon Johnson found out about this report, he hit the roof and he had it suppressed for all time. Now, in going through this document, I noticed on page 51, it said, quote, "It had been hotly argued that such a menace would offer the last best hope of peace, etc., by uniting mankind against a danger of destruction by creatures from other planets or from outer space. Experiments have been proposed to test the credibility of an out of our world invasion threat." Now, this was a document back in 1967. And you have to think about if we had anti-gravity craft back in 1954, they'd have the technology to be able to pull it off. In 1977, Werner von Braun was dying of cancer. On his deathbed, Dr. Carl Rosen, another witness that joined in the National Press Club in 2001, testified that they had he was shown these advanced plans to create these false flag events, to create these enemies. Number one would be the Soviets, would be the first in the series. The next one, which was in line, this was in May of 2001. In September, we know what happened on 9/11. Rogue nations followed that, such as North Korea and Iran. Asteroids was next on the list. Then he would repeat over and over again that the final card, the last card, would be the extraterrestrial threat, but it is all a lie. And then Hillary was freaking out because Trump was way ahead on the polls, and they hired the Benson Strategy Group, which Anonymous was able to leak and get this document out, where they recommended a false flag alien invasion to salvage the Clinton campaign. And you can see here, the highest percentage was 38% attacked by extraterrestrials. They had shooting war in the neighborhood, they had biblical event, external invading force, but the extraterrestrial one won the top bid. The document analyzes a number of salvage scenarios and recommends one called Fire Sign, which is a false flag extraterrestrial invasion using advanced holographic technology. So, don't be fooled. There we go.
Is that it? Fantastic.
Yep. I did as fast as I possibly could.
No. I love that. I love that. And my God, just the prospect of Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation and their repugnant CGI Clinton Global Initiative, which was really the technology that bought the basement out of the United Nations, incidentally, back in the day in the 2000s. It was the CGI that was really the front. It was, in a sense, a precursor to the World Economic Forum. I mapped that out back in the day. And when I was in the UN, I was watching how the CGI was at the front, working in tandem with Chinese billionaires connected to the CCP, buying out all the NGOs and the IGOs in the basement of the UN. It's very, very clever stuff. But the idea that the Clintons were that desperate that they were sat around the breakfast table sketching notes on mounting, alien invasions in order to hang on to power. I mean, that's just too funny. Ilana, your thoughts on that delightful presentation?
Oh, it was very good. It was very simple. I really like that when I can kind of grasp the whole picture. And I was familiar with a lot of that. One of the things that has influenced me, though, and I wonder, Dan, if you've heard this, I'm in touch with about a dozen MK Ultra survivors, and some of them thrivers, some of them not. One of them claims to have been programmed with what is the name of that? Greer, Stephen Greer, to have been MK Ultra programmed with him. They have a kind of twinning thing they do in MK Ultra, and therefore every time he talks, this is on my mind as I'm sort of wading my way through what he's saying. Have you ever heard anything about that?
No, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that before. I respect Dr. Greer for all the efforts he's done. We differ on the opinion that all the extraterrestrials in the entire galaxy are benevolent. There's a lot of different agendas. Fortunately, most of them are, and they're working with us.
Is that what he says? That they're all benevolent?
Yeah, that there are no regressive type extraterrestrials such as the reptilians, the Zakar Empire or the Nibu. But fortunately, they've all been removed from our solar system back in 2021 as the Arlington Institute, John Peterson, the 3 independent sources, it's a Navy think tank, confirmed exactly what Elena Danaan said, that these regressive extraterrestrial, in other words, the extraterrestrial overlords that Jane brought in her presentation, have been removed out of our solar system. So we just have the human element to deal with, the clean house.
Yeah, but when we say the human element, we're talking about the proxy class of human or subhuman, the kind of the kind of subhuman exemplified, and this is no joke, exemplified by the Bill Gates and the Anthony Fauci's and the Hillary Clintons of this world, who function as human beings and to all intents and purposes fulfill the station of human beings, but are without any question of doubt the diabolical functionaries or proxies of those archonic forces, who, as you rightly say, are no longer in this world, but there's a kind of a decay or an echo going on with the proxy class. And curious, Jacob Rothschild shuffled off his mortal coil this last week, that scion of the of the Anunnaki, or the negative aspect of the Anunnaki, I should say.
Well, proudly displays the television seal of good practice.
Rockstone TV.